Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Young. I'm just going to walk you through food manufacturing as part of a key sector that should be in discussion as you talk across Canada as part of build-up for the election in October. In this particular presentation, I'm going to walk you through food manufacturing. There's some of the issues it's faced. This particular slide is showing you manufacturing sales for food processing. So I've taken this up to July 2015, and you'll see that July's food manufacturing sales are about 8.2 billion, which is about 15 to 18% of total manufacturing goods in Canada. So it's a significant sector that's important to Canada. It drives things that you get at a grocery store. It drives everything else that when you go out to eat, it's all related to that. And guess what? Take a look at these examples here. So the left-hand side of the screen, you're seeing Western Bakery. So if you go out and buy a loaf of bread, you're seeing Kraft. So if you buy cheese slices, processed meats, Parmalat, you buy your yogurt. So everything you see here is directly these a few vendors here. They're not all of them, but are key vendors in Canada. The other thing, look at the products here. Maple Leaf, that's where you're getting your chicken from. Everybody likes a snack, so you see Frito-Lay potato chips. Robin Hood flour, that's from the wheat. Schneider's Red Hots, everybody likes to have hot dogs in the summer. So you're seeing these are the key brand names that you want to look at. Now, this gives you an example on employment. Okay, there's 236,000 people that work in food manufacturing in Canada. So it's very critical, right? It's if you look at where it says here. Like if you look at where it ranks, it's up there with automotive in terms of its importance. Yet, where's Thomas Mulcair been throughout the election? He said nothing about food processing. It's talking here is a little bit about the margins. Food processing margins tend to be a little bit tight because they have to bring in the materials, and a lot of that's commodity price driven, whether it's wheat, barley, oats, meat. All that is basically cattle is all set by commodity prices, which Harper has no control over. Let's look at growth. Since 2009, look at food manufacturing. It's consistently growing numbers, right? Like everything else, even in a recession, it didn't lose a lot of jobs. Why? Because most people have to eat. So you're seeing the other heavy-duty sectors which bled some jobs, but food manufacturing has been pretty consistent. This gives you an idea of the cost. So the bulk of the cost, or 2/3 of the cost for food manufacturing, are with regards to material and cost. Energy is a small piece of it, it's 2.1%. Labor costs are about 11.3%. Now let's talk about labor there. And the reason why I want to bring that up is Thomas Mulcair wants to bring in CPP enhancements. Those will impact the labor costs here. And we're talking about business here that have very tight margins. That will impact them. This shows you employment. This is critical to look at it. Look at the two key voting blocks here. That's Quebec and Ontario. So Ontario is very key. And look at the number of employment here from food manufacturing. You would think a guy that taunts himself like Thomas Mulcair does on food processing, on the manufacturing sector, that he would be focused on food processing. And look at this. Look at these graphs here. He said nothing. Why? Because he seems to be so narrow with his focus on the unions that are driving him. The unions that are driving him are Unifor, United Steelworker Union, all the ones that are pushing the most money to him, that's who he speaks to. Key issues. Like everything else, these are the things business tells you. So if business is telling you these are key issues, then why are the leaders not talking about it? It seems to me the pandering done by Mulcair and even Justin Trudeau are not about meeting with people. Meeting with people means talking to people, talking about the issues, and including that in those platforms. Mulcair has not talked about trade. Okay, he's not talked about trade for one reason. He's very protectionism. If he really cared about businesses' need, they want the ability to export. They want to have access to new markets. So why is Mulcair not supporting exports? Why? That's something you should be asking yourself, because that drives employment. The second point here, he doesn't talk about existing funds that were set up to help innovation, either purchase equipment to help with training. This is examples here where you're seeing with the Agro Innovation Fund, the Agro Competitiveness Fund, the Agro Marketing Fund. All money to help those sectors to grow. So when you hear comments, Harper's not about the economy, Harper's about oil. If you look at this particular graph, that's not the case. Let's talk about Harper's done. This is two examples. Harper earlier this year gave money to a small pasta company that's making pasta locally here for both in the Canadian market, but eventually possibly for exports. You're looking at the dairy industry, Manitoba. We saw the Prairies is a pretty good manufacturing association for food processing. So when you people take a look at the votes, and I realize some of you are buying in all this spiel from Mr. Mulcair, I think you need to ask some questions of here. If you are a private sector employer, you may want to go to your employer and ask him questions, what about these tax increases? What's that going to do? Or you may hear the rhetoric as you're in the lunchroom or your production supervisor tells you, he's talking about these costs. Mulcair is very dangerous because where he talks about a few grants here and there, he's setting a precedent. He's already set a precedent that he's going to expand automotive grants or aerospace. So if he's going to give to one sector, guess what? Doesn't he not have to give to all sectors? So if he's planning, say, $200 million over a period of 4 years to help innovation, well, if you look at those sectors, that's 10% of those sectors, or let's say, I'll say in general, let's say that's 25 or 30% of the overall manufacturing sale. If that's the case, so what's going to happen with the other 70%? Well, that means he actually has to give in another $400 million or $500 million to support those sectors. So why is he not talking about that? That's the questions you need to ask.